Hey guys, welcome back to another video. I am sick today, so yeah, if my voice sounds weird, it's because of that. And today we will be reading a scary story about Hachi Shaku Sama. 8 feet tall, or Hachi Shaku Sama. It's a Japanese urban legend about a tall woman who abducts children. She is 8 feet tall, wears a long white dress, and makes a sound like paw, 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 paw. And here's a picture of her. That's how tall she is. Oh, okay. My grandparents lived in Japan. Every summer, my parents would take me there on a holiday to visit them. They lived in a small village. They had a big backyard. I loved to play there during the summer. When we arrived, my grandparents always welcomed me with open arms. I was their only grandchild, so they spoiled me. Last time I saw them was the summer when I was 8 years old. As usual, my parents booked the flight to Japan, and we drove from the airport to my grandpa's house. They were delighted to see me and had lots of little presents to give me. My parents wanted to have some time by themselves, so it took a few days. So after a few days, they took a trip to another part of Japan, leaving me in the care of my grandma and my grandpa. One day, I was out playing in the backyard. My grandparents were inside the house. It was a hot summer's day, and I lay down on the grass to rest. I stared up at the cloud and enjoyed the feeling of the soft rays of the sun and the gentle breeze. Just as I was about to get up, I heard a strange sound. I'm trying to fix the camera here. Sorry. Pull, 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 pull. I don't want to say that long because I am home alone right now and I am scared out of my fudging mind. I didn't know what it was, and it was hard to figure out where it was coming from. It sounded like somebody was making the noise themselves after just saying po 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 over and over again in a deep masculine voice. Sorry if I pronounced that word wrong. I don't know how to pronounce that yet. Muscular. You know what? Forget that word. I'm just gonna pronounce it as masculine. I was looking around, searching for the source of the noise, when I suddenly noticed that something on the top of the tall hedges that enclosed the backyard. It was a straw hat. It wasn't resting on the hedge. It was behind it. That's where the sound was coming from. Pull, 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 pull. Then the hat began to move, as if something was wearing it. The hat stopped at a tall gap in the hedge. I could see its face peering through. It was a woman. But the hedges were high, almost 8 feet tall. That's enough to give you nightmares. I was surprised at how tall the woman was. I wondered if she was wearing stilts or some kind of huge high-heeled shoes. Then a split second later, she walked up, and the strange noise disappeared with her, fading into the distance. Let me fix the camera again. Bewildered, I got up and wandered back into the house. My grandparents were in the kitchen drinking tea. I sat down at the table, and after a while, I told my grandparents what they had seen. They weren't really paying attention to me until I mentioned that distinctive sound. Pull, 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 pull. As soon as I said that, both of them suddenly froze. Grandma's eyes grew wide, and she covered her mouth with her hand. Grandpa's face became very serious and he grabbed me by the arm. "This is very important," he said in a very intense voice. "You must tell us exactly how tall she." As tall as the garden hedge," I replied, beginning to get scared. My grandfather bombarded me with questions. Where was she standing? When did this happen? What did you do? Did she see you? I tried to answer all his questions as best as I could. He suddenly rushed out to the hallway and made a phone call. I couldn't hear what he was saying, but I looked over at my grandma and she was trembling. Grandpa came back, barging into the room, and spoke to my grandmother. "I've got to go out for a while," he said. "You stay here with the child. Don't take your eyes off him for a second." Oh, I thought it was a girl for some reason. I thought the grandchild was a girl. Okay, back to the story. "What's going on, Grandpa?" I cried. He looked at me with a sad expression and said, "You've been liked by Hachi-shaku." Let me try that one more time. Hachi-shaku-sama. With that, he hurried out, got into his truck, and drove off. I turned to my grandma and cautiously asked, "Who's Hachi-shaku-sama?" "Don't worry," she said in a shaking voice. "Grandpa will do something. There's no need for you to worry." We sat nervously in the kitchen, waiting for my grandfather to come back. She explained what was happening. She told me there was a dangerous thing that was haunting the area. They called it Hachi-shaku-sama because of its height. In Japanese, Hachi-shaku-sama means 8 feet tall. It takes the appearance of an extremely tall woman. It makes a sound like po, 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 in a deep male voice. It appears slightly different depending on who it sees it. Some say it looks like a haggard old woman in a kimono. Others say it's a girl in a white funeral shroud. One thing that never changes is its height and the sound it makes. A long time ago, it was captured by the monks, and they managed to confine it in a ruined building on the outskirts of the village. They trapped it using 4 small religious statues called jizos that they placed at the north, south, east, and west of the ruins. It wasn't supposed to be able to move from there. Somehow it managed to escape. Last time it appeared was 15 years ago. My grandmother said anyone who saw 8 feet tall was destined to die within a few days. It all sounded so crazy. I wasn't sure what to believe. Oh, shoot. I lost it. Hold up. Got it. Okay, I found it. When Grandpa came back, there was an old woman with him. She introduced herself as Kei-san, and handed me a small crumpled piece of parchment, saying, "Here, take this and hold it." Then she and Grandpa went upstairs to do something. I was left alone in the kitchen with my grandmother again. I needed to go to the toilet. Grandma followed me to the bathroom and wouldn't let me shut the door. I was beginning to get really frightened by all of this. After a while, Grandpa and Kei-san took me upstairs and brought me to my bedroom. The windows were covered in newspaper and lots of ancient ruins had been written on them. There were small bowls of salt in all 4 corners. The small Buddha figure placed at the center of the room on the top of a wooden box. There was also a bright blue bucket. "What's the bucket for?" I asked. "That's for your pee and poo," Grandpa replied. Kei-san sat me down on the bed and said, "Soon the sun will be setting, so listen carefully. You must stay in this room until tomorrow morning. You must not come out under any circumstances until 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. Your grandpa and your father will not speak or call you until then. Remember, do not leave the room for any reason. Until then, I will let your parents know what is going on." She spoke in such a grave tone that all I could do was quietly nod my head. "You have to follow Kei-san's instructions to the letter," Grandpa told me, "and never let go of the parchment she gave you. If anything happens, pray to the Buddha and make sure you lock this door when we leave." They walked out into the hallway after saying goodbye to them. I closed the bedroom door and locked it. I turned the TV and tried to watch it, but I was so nervous. I felt sick to my stomach. Grandma had left some snacks and rice balls for me, but I couldn't eat them. I felt like I was in a prison. I was very depressed and scared. I lay down on the bed and waited. Before I knew it, I was asleep. When I woke up, it was just after 1 a.m. All of a sudden, I realized there was something was tapping on the window. Tap, tap, tap. I felt the blood draining from my face, and my heart skipped a beat. I desperately tried to calm myself down, telling myself it was only the wind playing tricks, or maybe the branches of a tree. I turned up the volume on the TV to drown out the noise, to drown out the tapping noise. Eventually, it stopped altogether. That was when I heard Grandpa calling me. "Are you okay in there?" he asked. "If you're scared, you don't have to stay in there all alone. I can come and keep you company." I smiled and rushed over to the door, but then I stopped in my tracks. I had goosebumps all over my body. It sounded like Grandpa's voice, but somehow it was different. I couldn't tell what was, but I just knew. "What are you doing?" Grandpa asked. "You can open the door now." I glanced to my left and a chill went down my spine. The salt in the bowls were slowly turning black. I backed away from the door. My whole body was trembling with fear. I fell to my knees in front of the Buddha statue and clutched the piece of parchment tightly in my hand. I started desperately praying for help. "Please save me from the Hachi Shaku-sama," I wailed. But then I heard a voice outside the door saying, "Po, po, 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 po." The tapping on the window started up again. I was overcome by fear, and I crouched there in front of the statue, half praying for the rest of the night. I felt like it would never end. But eventually it was morning. The salt in all 4 bowls were pitch black. I watched my watch. It was 7:30 a.m. I cautiously opened the door. Grandma and Kei-san were outside waiting for me. When she saw my face, Grandma burst into tears. "I'm so glad you're still alive," she said. I went downstairs and was surprised to see my father and mother sitting in the kitchen. Grandpa came in and said, "Hurry up, we've got to get going." When we moved to the front door, and there was a large black van waiting in the driveway. Several men from the village were standing around it, pointing at me and whispering, "That's the boy." The van was a 9-seater. They put me in the middle, surrounded by 8 men. Kei-san was in the driver's seat. The man on my left looked down on me and said, you got yourself in quite a spot of trouble. I know you're probably worried, but just keep your head down and your eyes shut. We can't see it, but you can. Don't open your eyes until we've safely gotten you out of here." Grandpa drove in front, and my dad's car was following behind. Everyone was ready. A little convoy started moving. We were going fairly slow, around 20 kilometers an hour, or maybe less. After a while, Kei-san said, "This is where it gets hard," and started muttering a prayer under her breath. That's when I heard the voice, "Po, po, 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 po." I clutched the piece of parchment Kei-san had given me tightly. Kei-san had given me in my hand. I kept my head down, but I peeked outside. I saw a white dress fluttering in the breeze. It was moving along with the van. It was Hachi Shaku-sama. She was outside the window. She was keeping pace with us. Then she bent down and peered into the van. "No!" I gasped. Okay, guys, I'm going to end it here. This is part 1. I'll continue it next time. Until then, bye!